Good morning and welcome to Area Shores Prepping. I'm your host, Greg. This video is going to be of a serious nature. It's going to be of a religious nature, and I want to make a disclaimer right up front. I am not a minister. I am not a pastor or anything of the sort. I do not tell you anything that I do not know for sure that is backed up by Scripture. I do not want to mislead you or say things that I am not or believe. This is a dream that was given to me, and it's like no other dream I've ever had before, and it was an absolutely surreal. It was just unbelievable. The missus is up there changing the bed sheets right now because I literally sweated through the pillowcases and the sheet on the bed, and it was soaked. I was drenched in perspiration and sweat. That's how intense this dream was. It is time to share this with you because of the separation from God in America. He has lifted his hand of protection from us with the abomination of Pride Month and other things. We have turned his back on him, so he has turned his back on us. We have separated ourselves from him and each other, and we can see it and feel it for sure. I will share this dream with you, and if you believe it, that's wonderful. If you do not believe it, I urge you to check scriptures and get yourself right with God. This is his warning. In my dream, I dreamed I was in like Jerusalem or someplace like that at a market with a tourist group. And this was a color dream, very real. I mean, it was a living dream, surreal. It was just like I was right there. And we were in the marketplace, and I was at the fresh market, and I was talking to the guy, that I'm saying, I wonder how they harvested all this fruit. How did they grow all these fruits and vegetables in the time of Pharaoh, in the time of Jesus Christ? How did they do this? How did they accomplish having food and survive all the time? And the guy looked at me and he says, well, you want to know how they do it? They're still pretty much doing it like it in the old times. I said, I would love that. I'm not interested in going to bazaars or, carpet sales for tourists or anything else like that. I said, I really would like to see how they grow the crops, harvested it, and techniques and everything else. I'm fascinated with that. And he says, I know someone that can be your guide. And he says, give me just a few minutes. And next thing you know, he introduces me to a man who I could not tell what he really looked like, other than he was a tall man, slender. He had like a one-piece robe on. His hair was brown, straight, cropped. He had a close beard, brown eyes, and you instantly liked him. You could trust him. Very nice, very polite, very cordial, very welcoming, and he smelled like sandalwood or something soft, jasmine or something that you liked. And he said, this is your guide. He'll take you out to show you how they grow the crops. And so we were walking, and it was a path, just like a dirt road, and the man was just listening to me, and I was saying, wow, so that's how they got the figs down from the trees, using the wooden ladders, and people climbed up and dropped them and lowered them with ropes. And I said, yeah, that's really cool. And they had people taking in the tangerines and the oranges, and I said, man, I never dreamed the irrigation and everything. This is a huge agriculture. He says, I didn't realize how many people there were harvesting this food. And then he motioned to me, and to my right was a field of wheat. And they were out there with their sickles and cutting it and putting it in bushels. And then we stopped, and there was women, 7 of them, on the side of the road. And they had big round, like basket lids, and they were dressed. They were wearing clothing that was just absolutely beautiful. It was like the India saris, where they wrapped it around and everything else. You couldn't see their faces. And they were all singing the song as they were flipping the grains of wheat up in the air, and you could see the separation of the chaff from the wheat just flowing across the path. It was like it was snowing. And the song was so beautiful. And they were singing it perfectly. I didn't hear any music. And the clothing was beautiful, like I said, vibrant colors and everything. And I was looking and I was watching the chaff go, and it was like all of a sudden it hit a glass wall that I couldn't see, and the chaff fell straight down into gray, black, sulfur smelling, nasty sewer water. And I walked over there and I thought, how could it stop just all of a sudden and fall straight down? And when I was standing there looking at this sewer water, I looked at the chaff and it looked like they had faces. And I was looking at it and I knelt down and I looked and I was almost going to, I had my hand extended, almost touching the water, going to scoop up some, because I swear the chaff had faces, anguishing, crying out for help, but I didn't hear anything. But you could definitely see faces. And I was about to scoop up a handful of water, and I'm thinking I must be seeing things. And my guide grabbed my hand and said, "Don't touch that water." And I looked at him and I said, "Why not?" And he says, "They will pull you down with them." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "This river, they don't come back from. They can't come back from this water. It can't." I said, "What do you mean they?" And he goes, "The lost souls. They're gone forever." And it's like they were falling into a hole and disappearing. And it was just flowing. And you could see chaff upon chaff, and you could see faces in agony being swept under this foul-smelling, nasty water, and they were disappearing. And I'm like, "What do you mean they're gone forever?" He says, "They're gone. They'll never come back. But they will take you with them to try them pull themselves out of the water, and you will go with them." He says, "Look over here." So I was looking back at the women standing there, and besides each one of them had these huge clay vases, beautifully colored. And when they were separating it out, they would pour the good wheat in the vases. And he says, "That's the good wheat. That's what we're separating the chaff from the wheat for. This is how they did it in the old time." Pardon me. And I was walking down looking at each one. And the very last one, there was an old woman sitting down, and her clothes were filthy dirty, and she smelled. I couldn't see her face. And she had piles of wheat. And I said, "Why does she have so much work?" And her hands were moving incredibly fast, and they looked mummified, like leather, hard, tan, weather-worn. And she was moving so fast you couldn't hardly see it. And she was putting the seeds in the jar. And I said, "Her clothes are filthy, and she looks horrible, and she looks starving, and everybody else is clean and fresh and everything else." And he says, "Stay back from her. Leave her alone. She is unclean." And I'm like, "Oh, come on." I said, "In this day and age, nobody should have to live like that. I can help her." And he says, "Do not approach her. Leave her alone." And her hands were moving so fast. I said, "What is she doing?" And he said, "In your language, it would be separating the foolers." I said, "What are the foolers?" And he goes, "Seeds that will never germinate, seeds that will never grow, yet they will take up the energy, the nutrients around them, robbing others of it." And she goes, "She's seeing it. Those are the ones that are broken, bruised, and they throw them in there." And I said, "What happens to those?" And he says, "We feed those to the animals. They are of no use, but they can eat those." So I knelt down in front of her, and my guide, who I don't know his name, said, "Leave her alone. Do not touch her." And I knelt down, And I said, I was very polite. I said, hello, how are you? I said, can I help you? Can I get you some clothes? Can I get you some food? I said, your clothes are worn. Others have brightly colored clothing and they smell nice and they're happy and they're singing. And you're sitting here separated from others. And I said, you look like you need food. You need clothing. What can I do to help you? And she stopped. And she had this hood and her face was like, you couldn't see her face. And my guide says, leave her alone. Don't get any closer. I said, here, let me help you. Can I help you up? We can go get close. I have money. I can help you. And out of nowhere, this face came out from underneath the hood, and it was a skull of death. And it scared me so bad. She shrieked and yelled, and I fell backwards into the path, looking at her, horrified, trying to get away from her, scooting back. And then she went back. Her face disappeared inside her robe, and she went back sorting the bad seed. And my guide said, I told you, she is the death. She separates the people who are not with the righteous. And I immediately woke up after that, and I was covered in sweat. Pools that were in my neck and in my throat. I sweated through my bed sheets, and I realized then, this is the great separation. It is time, and we are seeing it. Our hearts have grown cold towards God. We have rejected His word. We have denied His word. We have turned our backs on Him and others. The separation here and around the world. It is coming, folks. This is the warning. It is time to get yourself right with God. Repent. It's not that hard, and yet people won't do it. Get yourself baptized, submerged in water. People won't do that because they said there's nothing out there. They say there's nothing after that. We're worm fooled. I'm a good person. God will accept me because I did good deeds. That's not how it works. This is a warning to you. It was so real. You could touch people. You could smell people. You could see the blue skies, the sun. This was like no dream I've ever had before. And it scared me so bad, I jumped up and gasped for breath. You can take it for what it is. This is the only one I've had. I've had other dreams of war, pending war, and everything else, and I'm not sharing those with you right now. But this one here, separating from God, the coldness of your heart, this is your warning. I delivered it. I told you. I warned you. And God has done the same. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I didn't do it for that. Greg out.